Only a narcissist who is terrified does these crazy things. Have you ever seen someone seemingly lose all control over a situation, behaving in ways that leave you shocked, confused, and even fearful? What if I told you that behind these outbursts and extreme behaviors lies a deep, profound fear? A narcissist, often known for their inflated sense of self-importance, might not seem like the kind of person who would ever be afraid. After all, they project confidence, superiority, and invulnerability. But the truth is, narcissists are some of the most terrified people you'll ever meet. They're terrified of losing control, of facing their vulnerabilities, and of being exposed as the fragile beings they are beneath the bravado. And when that fear reaches its peak, they can resort to some truly crazy and destructive actions. But what kind of behaviors are we talking about? Why does this happen? And how does their fear drive them to do things that seem completely irrational and even dangerous? In this video, we will explore the darker side of narcissistic behavior, the ways their fears manifest, and how their terror can lead them to do things that only someone driven by deep insecurity would consider. Stick around until the end, because this is a side of narcissism you won't want to miss. Welcome back. If you've ever felt bewildered by a narcissist's actions, perhaps wondering why they're capable of the most extreme and bizarre behaviors, this video is for you. Before we dive into this deep, eye-opening exploration, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone you think might benefit from this insight. When we think of narcissists, we often imagine individuals who are self-assured and arrogant, but the reality is far from that. Beneath their constant need for admiration and attention lies a deep well of fear, and when that fear surfaces, you won't believe the lengths they will go to in order to protect themselves. Today, we're going to look at what happens when a narcissist's fear is triggered and how it leads them to behave in ways that seem, on the surface, completely crazy and unreasonable. Stay tuned, because understanding this fear is key to protecting yourself when dealing with narcissists in your life. A narcissist's behavior can seem unpredictable, especially when they are pushed into a corner or when their carefully constructed persona starts to unravel. But what's really happening beneath the surface? Narcissists live in a constant state of fear, driven by insecurities that they desperately try to hide from the world. Their outwardly confident appearance is just a facade, a defense mechanism to prevent others from seeing the truth about their fragile sense of self. Number 1. The fear of exposure. One of the most deeply ingrained fears that a narcissist grapples with is the fear of being exposed for their true self. Beneath the carefully constructed facade of confidence and superiority lies a fragile and insecure individual. The narcissist's entire sense of worth depends on maintaining the illusion of perfection, and any threat to that image sends them into a panic. This can happen if they face rejection, criticism, or experience failure, as these situations directly challenge the image they have built. In response, they may resort to extreme and irrational measures to protect themselves, going to great lengths to preserve their false identity. They may spread malicious lies, manipulate those around them, or even target and destroy anyone they perceive as a threat to their carefully guarded self-image. The idea of being seen for who they truly are, flawed and imperfect, is so terrifying that they will do anything to avoid it. And this fear can lead them to engage in some of their most destructive behaviors. Number 2. The fear of losing control. Narcissists are, at their core, control freaks. The need for dominance and power over every aspect of their lives is essential to their sense of security. Whether it's in their relationships, work life, or even their social circles, they crave the upper hand. The fear of losing control is a major driving force behind their actions, And when they feel that control slipping, whether through a change in a relationship dynamic, a loss of status at work, or a shift in a situation, they react with intense fear. This panic triggers a desperate need to manipulate, gaslight, and emotionally abuse those around them, all in an attempt to reassert their dominance. Their actions are often subtle and can confuse others, leaving them questioning their own reality. The narcissist's fear of losing control manifests in unpredictable, erratic behavior, and at times, they can become dangerous as they push the boundaries of what's acceptable in their attempts to regain their position. The lengths they will go to in order to maintain power often leave those around them feeling emotionally drained and mentally exhausted. Number 3. The fear of rejection. Beneath the grandiose image of the narcissist lies a profound and often overlooked fear of rejection. While they project an air of superiority, they are constantly seeking validation from others to feel worthy and significant. The narcissist's entire self-worth is based on external admiration, and without it, they feel a deep sense of emptiness and inadequacy. Rejection, whether from a partner, a friend, or society at large, strikes at the core of this insecurity. The moment they experience any form of rejection, they spiral into panic, and this fear can send them into a cycle of obsession and aggression. They may lash out at those who reject them, become fixated on their perceived wrongdoers, or even begin harassing others. The fear of rejection is so overwhelming that they will often take extreme and irrational actions to avoid it, which can include trying to sabotage the person or situation that has rejected them. Rather than confronting their own flaws, they will go to great lengths to avoid facing the painful truth of their vulnerability. Number 4. The fear of vulnerability. For a narcissist, vulnerability is one of the greatest threats to their carefully constructed image. Vulnerability exposes the raw, human aspects of themselves that they work tirelessly to hide. They see emotional exposure as a form of weakness, and weakness is something they cannot tolerate. The moment they are faced with the prospect of confronting their own vulnerability, whether it's in the form of emotional intimacy, a personal crisis, or a failure that exposes their flaws, they react with panic. To avoid feeling vulnerable, they may withdraw, become defensive, or lash out in aggression. Some narcissists may even go as far as projecting their own weaknesses onto others, accusing them of the very flaws they themselves are trying to suppress. If anyone dares to expose their vulnerability or try to make them confront their humanity, the narcissist's response is often destructive. They may try to destroy that person or isolate them in an effort to protect their fragile ego and prevent themselves from having to face the uncomfortable reality of their own imperfection. Number 5. The fear of not being admired. Narcissists thrive on admiration, and it's a central pillar of their self-worth. They need constant praise, attention, and validation from others in order to feel significant. When they stop receiving the admiration they crave, their sense of identity starts to crumble. The fear of not being admired is particularly alarming for them because, without admiration, they feel invisible and insignificant. This fear often leads to frantic and irrational behaviors as they scramble to recapture the attention they'd lost. They may resort to desperate measures, using attention-seeking tactics that are often embarrassing or degrading in an effort to place themselves back in the spotlight. The narcissist's need for validation can become so extreme that they are willing to humiliate themselves or others in the process, just to be the center of attention once again. This need for constant admiration is a powerful motivator in their life and drives much of their behavior, whether they are in a romantic relationship, at work, or in social situations. Number 6. The fear of being alone. One of the most crippling fears for a narcissist is the fear of being alone. This fear is deeply rooted in their inability to provide emotional validation for themselves. Narcissists are reliant on others to validate their worth because they are unable to do so on their own. Being alone forces them to confront the emptiness and fragility at the core of their existence. This realization is so unsettling that they will go to great lengths to avoid it. Instead of facing their inner void, they rely on people in their lives as emotional crutches, using them to fill the void they cannot bear to face. When someone tries to leave them or break free from their control, the narcissist will often react with desperation. They may beg, plead, or even use manipulation tactics to guilt the person into staying. In extreme cases, they may resort to emotional blackmail, threatening to harm themselves or others to prevent the loss of their emotional supply. The fear of abandonment is so overwhelming that it drives them to engage in behaviors that are both manipulative and toxic. Number 7. The fear of losing their supply. Narcissists rely heavily on their supply, the individuals or situations that provide them with the constant admiration, validation, and attention they need to feel important. These sources of validation are vital to maintaining the narcissist's fragile self-image. If they sense that their supply is slipping away, they can become frantic, desperate to cling to the people or things that validate them. This fear of losing their supply can drive them to extreme and often erratic behaviors. Narcissists may resort to stalking, manipulation, or even threats in order to secure their source of validation. Their desperation is palpable, and their actions can be alarming to those around them. They may seem completely unhinged, but it's the intense fear of losing their sense of worth that drives these behaviors. For the narcissist, the thought of losing their supply is equivalent to losing their very identity, and they will stop at nothing to prevent this from happening. Number 8. The fear of facing consequences. Narcissists have an aversion to facing consequences for their actions. They are experts at deflecting blame and avoiding accountability. When confronted with their mistakes or failures, they often react defensively, becoming angry, irrational, and belligerent. The fear of facing consequences is deeply ingrained in their behavior because it threatens their image of perfection and invulnerability. Rather than take responsibility for their actions, they will go to great lengths to deflect attention away from their wrongdoings. They may gaslight others, shift the blame to someone else, or create drama to distract from the issue at hand. In some cases, they may even engage in acts of sabotage, ruining others' reputations or relationships to cover up their own failures. The narcissist's inability to face the consequences of their actions is a key aspect of their personality, and it often drives them to engage in outrageous and harmful behaviors. Thank you for staying with us as we explored the terrifying motivations behind a narcissist's erratic and destructive behavior. Understanding the deep fears that drive narcissists to act in such extreme ways is crucial to recognizing these behaviors when they arise. If you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you've probably witnessed some of these crazy actions firsthand. It's essential to remember that behind these actions lies a fragile individual desperately trying to protect a self-image built on fear and insecurity. If you found this video valuable, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who might benefit from this insight. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your experiences with narcissists and how you've managed to protect yourself. Until next time, stay aware, stay strong, and remember that you are not alone. How a fragile narcissist can wreck your reality. When you think of a narcissist, what comes to mind? Someone who is arrogant, self-absorbed, and always craving admiration. While these are common traits associated with narcissism, There's a lesser-known, more insidious type of narcissism that can profoundly affect those around them, the fragile narcissist. What if I told you that this particular type can distort and even shatter your reality without you even realizing it? You might be living in their world without fully understanding how deep the manipulation runs. Keep reading, and by the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of how a fragile narcissist can wreak havoc on your life. Imagine being in a relationship where nothing you do is ever quite good enough. You feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to please someone who seems to have an unshakable sense of entitlement. You can't quite put your finger on it, but something about their behavior feels off. They don't just expect admiration, they demand it. And when it doesn't come, their fragile sense of self is threatened. This is the reality of being with a fragile narcissist. They're not always overtly confident. In fact, they can appear insecure, vulnerable, and sensitive. But underneath that fragile exterior lies a powerful drive for control and validation, one that can slowly distort your sense of self and reality. As we dive into this topic, I'll walk you through the subtle yet destructive ways fragile narcissists operate. You'll understand how their fragile ego can wreak havoc on your mental health, relationships, and even your perception of reality. By the end of this video, you'll recognize the signs of fragile narcissism and know how to protect yourself from their manipulative tactics. The thin veneer of confidence. At first glance, a fragile narcissist might appear just like anyone else. They could be charming, charismatic, even vulnerable. They don't necessarily come off as the brash, boastful narcissist you've seen in movies or read about in books. Instead, they might seem like someone who is just sensitive and in need of reassurance. However, their self-esteem is paper-thin. One small comment or negative feedback can send them into a tailspin of self-doubt, defensiveness, or outright rage. The paradox of the fragile narcissist lies in the fact that their confidence is constantly on the edge of collapse. Their ego is built on the need for external validation, and without it, their sense of self crumbles. So, they manipulate and control others to maintain their fragile self-image. This can be incredibly confusing because at first, they might seem humble and self-deprecating, but their actions speak a different truth. Their humility is a cover for a much deeper insecurity. Can you relate to someone who seems self-conscious but constantly needs admiration? This is a typical pattern of a fragile narcissist, and it's important to recognize how their need for validation influences every interaction. Gaslighting, a dangerous game. One of the most devastating tools in the fragile narcissist's arsenal is gaslighting. If you've ever experienced a situation where you were made to question your own memory or perception of events, you've likely encountered a narcissist employing this technique. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where the narcissist sows seeds of doubt in your mind, making you second-guess your own reality. For example, the fragile narcissist might tell you that something you clearly remember never happened, or they might insist that you're being too sensitive when you express how their behavior hurt you. Over time, this relentless undermining of your perception of events can lead you to lose trust in your own judgment. The fragile narcissist thrives on this because, for them, maintaining control over your reality is the ultimate safeguard for their fragile ego. Ever had your memory or feelings dismissed as all in your head? Gaslighting isn't just a toxic behavior. It's a dangerous weapon in a fragile narcissist's manipulation playbook. The cycle of idealization and devaluation. Another hallmark of dealing with a fragile narcissist is the intense emotional roller coaster that comes with their behavior. Early on, they may idealize you. They might shower you with compliments, affection, and attention, making you feel like you're the most important person in the world. But as soon as their fragile ego is threatened, whether by something you did or even something you didn't do, the devaluation process begins. The fragile narcissist will flip the switch, suddenly making you feel like you're the problem. They might become distant, critical, or outright dismissive. This shift is often confusing because it comes out of nowhere, leaving you wondering what went wrong. However, this is all part of their need to maintain control and protect their fragile sense of self. When they feel criticized or neglected, they will lash out by devaluing you, making you feel insignificant and unworthy of their attention. Are you constantly left wondering where you stand with someone? If you're caught in a cycle of intense highs and crushing lows, you might be dealing with a fragile narcissist who's playing a dangerous emotional game. The emotional toll. Living in constant fear. Living with a fragile narcissist is like living in a state of perpetual uncertainty. They thrive on keeping you on edge, never knowing when the next emotional upheaval will hit. Because their self-worth is so fragile, they cannot tolerate even the slightest criticism, and as a result, their emotional reactions can be extreme. This emotional volatility can leave you feeling drained, anxious, and mentally exhausted. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do anything that could set them off. Over time, this constant state of fear can erode your own sense of security and stability, making you doubt your own feelings and reactions. This is the real danger of being involved with a fragile narcissist. Their emotional instability is contagious, and it can slowly destroy your own sense of peace and confidence. Do you feel like you're constantly trying to predict someone's emotional state? Living with a fragile narcissist means never knowing when the next emotional outburst will occur, and it can take a severe toll on your mental well-being. The fragile narcissist's victim. You. A fragile narcissist's greatest success lies in making you feel like you're the problem. They gaslight you, devalue you, and make you feel insecure about your own emotions. In many cases, they convince you that their erratic behavior is your fault or that you're too sensitive. As a result, you may start to internalize their criticisms and feel like you're the one causing the damage to your relationship. This psychological manipulation can be so effective that you begin to doubt your reality. You might find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, or making excuses for their hurtful behavior. Over time, this can lead to a complete loss of self-esteem and a warped sense of identity. The fragile narcissist's influence can become so pervasive that you forget who you were before they entered your life. Have you ever felt like you're the one who always has to apologize, even when you've done nothing wrong? This is a typical outcome of a fragile narcissist's manipulation, where you start questioning your own worth. Breaking free from the grip of a fragile narcissist. Recognizing the signs of a fragile narcissist is the first step in breaking free from their influence. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for their fragile ego, nor are you the cause of their emotional instability. Setting clear boundaries, seeking support from trusted friends or professionals, and practicing self-care are crucial in protecting yourself from their manipulative behavior. The process of detaching from a fragile narcissist can be emotionally draining, but it's possible. It requires rebuilding your sense of self, regaining your confidence, and learning how to trust your own perceptions and feelings again. It might feel like an uphill battle, but with time and support, you can reclaim your reality from the destructive influence of a fragile narcissist. Are you ready to take control of your life and stop letting someone else dictate your emotions? It's never easy to break free from a narcissist, but with the right tools and mindset, you can regain your sense of self and peace. Thank you for reading, And I hope you found this article helpful in understanding how a fragile narcissist can wreak havoc on your reality. If you've ever dealt with someone like this, you're not alone, and you don't have to let them control your life. Remember, it's important to trust your instincts, set healthy boundaries, and protect your sense of self. If you found this article insightful, please share it with others who might benefit from the information. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss more valuable content like this. Stay strong, stay aware, and take care of yourself. You deserve it.